Go!
Hi everyone, RetroGamerDaz here, and it's Thursday, and that means it's late to the party. The game I've been late to the party to this week is the rather excellent Vandal by Konami. It's a strategy RPG, it came out in 1996, and is very, very good. So rather than me waffle on, let's take a look at the actual gameplay video I've put together for you. Now it's worth taking into account that I have got a slight gap on the right hand side. I did that because I basically wanted to put some imagery up, and I can't work out how to do that, so maybe we'll do it for the next video. Anyway, I hope you enjoy what you see. Okay then, so this is Vandal Hearts. It's for the PlayStation. It's a strategy RPG by Konami, and it's fantastic fun. I'm Darren Jones, RetroGamerDaz. I'm late to the party with this game, and hopefully this little guide will ensure that if you have missed it, you'll get the lowdown on why this is worth seeking out. So let's, without further ado, go on to the gameplay videos. So arguably the best thing about Vandal Hearts is the combat, but fighting isn't everything, no sir, and sometimes you just need to equip your fighters and your wizards and your clerics so that they're better equipped to take on those great isometric battles. You typically do that by going to a town. There's a large number of towns in the game, but ultimately the menus for visiting them are all the same. So you can basically go to a shop where you can buy new weapons and armor and new items. You can go to a dojo, and the dojo effectively allows you to get pearls of wisdom from this dude, or you can actually advance your levels of your characters. And we'll quickly show you here. Characters typically advance every 10 levels, and unfortunately there's not really many options for them, so most of the characters only have 2 choices, and they don't really have the job systems of games like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. It's not the end of the world. You can still have a nice range of characters, but it is a shame that it's not as flexible as other strategy RPGs that I've played. Finally, if you're not needing to go to the shop or the dojo, you can go to a tavern, and when you go to the tavern, you'll typically get information about what's going on in the world, and there'll be a variety of colourful characters, and some of them will have useful stuff to let you know, others will just give you some flavour text. And then you've got the ability to swap items between characters, and any excess items you have will go to your depot. And if you don't want to do that, you can simply look at the status of where your characters are, and this handy screen will not only show you the items they have, of which they can only have 2 at a time, so make sure that you manage things before going into battle, but you can check out their spells and you can check out their overall stats and skills. So it's just useful for planning when you go into a battle, largely to make sure that you've got the right items and equipment that you need. Otherwise, aside from that, it's just a case of you leave town. All the options are largely the same, with the exception of when you move now, you've got different places that you can go to. Bear in mind, the ones in red, once you've completed them, you can't go back to them. So if you're the kind of person who loves grinding in your strategy RPGs in order to max out your characters as far as possible, be aware you cannot do it in this. So ultimately that means that some levels of the game can be quite tricky because the difficulty level isn't the best. It's not the end of the world, because ultimately these sections normally crop up only a few times, and with a little bit of planning you can normally battle your way through them, but it is worth considering. So in this option we can either go to these 2 cities, or the Garda Sea will basically advance the plot, and that's where you'll typically get a little bit more story before you go into an actual battle. So what we'll do now is we'll take a look at one of the actual battles that you can get in Vandal Hearts. Okay then, so let's take a quick look at one of the battles, and in this one you're being waylaid by pirates and you have to basically work out how to complete the scenario in order to go on to the next one and to trigger the story. So this guy, Grog, is a drunken washed up hero who you basically pick up to join your party, and Ash is basically the leader of your intrepid gang. He's a guy with a troubled past because his father was a traitor and he's basically working for the Empire, but he doesn't really like the kind of people that he's working for, and he effectively becomes a freedom fighter as the story goes on. So the actual story is pretty decent. I'm not going to say it's amazingly written because it isn't, but while it does carry a lot of tropes, one of the things that I quite like about it is it's a very politically charged storyline, which is quite novel for the genre. At least in my experience. It could be that there's a lot of these on the PlayStation, but I actually quite enjoyed it. And there's, with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, and with all the distrust towards our actual government, it's it feels strangely timely, for want of a better word. So ultimately, we're going to take a quick look at this battle, and then we'll move to another one where you can get a better idea of some of the special items that you can use in the game. So as you saw there, you have a defeat option, and I'm going to quickly bring that up now to show you. So ultimately, your battle condition in this is all you really need to do is defeat the main guy. Take him out, and it doesn't matter how many of the other guys are left, they will topple like the wimps they are. However, defeating Hassan in this case is easier said than done because you're on another boat, you've got two small gangways, so you don't really have a lot of room to maneuver. Now, one of the things that I do like about the battles is that ultimately, while some of them are very straightforward, as the game progresses, you'll be given different things to do. Like one of them takes place on a train, and you have to basically get to the front of the train before the pieces behind you disappear. One is like a rescue mission where you have to protect a girl. One means that you have to basically defeat guys in a certain amount of rounds. So it keeps the variety up, and it's quite nice to see. So typically, Ash, who your main guy is, the game ends when he dies, so you want to try and keep him alive as long as possible. And one of the good things about this game compared to others from the genre is that ultimately when your guys do die, it is not the end of them. They do live on to fight in the other days. They just have to come out of the actual battles. So ultimately what we want to do here is you really want them to come to you. So the best thing to do is to lay this up in a way that only one of them can attack you at a time, but you can take out all of the others. So this is you basically priest, and he's got all sorts of cool options, but initially he's quite underpowered, as you can see here. So he's going to cast a mystical shield, which effectively raises a character's defense. And you get these nice little zoom in screens here, so you can really marvel at how good the 2D graphics are. So it's got a typical triangle system like many other games of this type, where certain characters and certain weapons are more beneficial than others. So, and part of the game is obviously finding out which ones are the most effective to use. So I've now taken control of all my characters. I can't really do anything else. Obviously you can click on a guy to see where they're going to move to. So I just pass the turn now. And it goes over to the enemy. And ultimately what you'll find is that some of them will typically stay in place and they won't move until you get to a certain trigger point. You want to be wary of archers because, well, they're a pain in the ass because they're archers. They shoot from a distance. Interestingly, in this game, even when you're right next to an archer, they can still basically do you damage, so you need to take that into account when you're playing. So again, what we're going to do here is I could literally move up and bash, but it makes more sense to set up this situation where they come into me. So I'm going to use Kira, and she can basically shoot from a distance. Now, again, one of the really cool things, and I'm going to quickly show you it here now actually before I move on to the next scenario, but one of the things I love about this game is it's so overtly violent. It's absolutely ridiculous. So it doesn't matter what item you're using to kill a character with. You could be dealing them damage with a small cudgel, you could be using a gigantic axe, but basically when you when you actually deliver the killing blow, this happens, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully we'll be able to do it here. Look at that! It's just a literal fountain of blood, and that happens no matter what you do. It doesn't matter whether you tap him with a little cudgel or whether you smote him with a big sword like what Ash has got there. The same thing happens. You just get a massive gushing of claret, and it's absolutely hilarious whenever it happens. So again, one of the good things about the mages is that they can attack from a distance, so you don't need to worry about getting down and dirty with them. They're typically quite weak in a toe-to-toe fight, so keep your distance, soften them up so that your other characters can basically go in and give them what for. And we're now going to use Diego because he can basically attack from a distance, and we'll probably be able to finish this guy off now. Oh, no. So now we're going to need to use Grog. And again, ready for the claret. Oh, it's utterly stupid. So let's take a look at one of the other scenarios, because I'll be able to give you a better idea of some of the cool magical effects that you can pick up later in the game. Okay then, so this is chapter 6, also known as the final chapter of the game, and as you would have guessed, the further you get into the game, the trickier it gets. And we're just meeting one of the main characters' baddies, who's been a constant pain in Ash's side ever since the game started. Another nice thing I like about this game though is, unlike a lot of strategy RPGs, you can take all your characters into battle. So as the game continues, you start off with just 3 characters, Ash, Clint and Diego, and then you pick up all these dudes over the course of the 6 chapters, and you'll have a nice mix of mages, clerics, fighters, archers, whatever support you want. You can make a nice balanced party. So it's yeah, it's quite nice to see, because you can normally have around like 6 to 8 characters, and then you have to leave the rest behind, and as a result your characters won't level up as balanced as you might like. So it's nice to see that Vandal Hearts doesn't do that. So again, I'm not going to really do too much strategy here, simply because I just really want to show you some of the cool magical effects and that you can do. Now, my archers now, these are the maximum snipers, so these are as far up as they can go. One thing that you will notice is that, unfortunately, I can't actually... Oh, I can on this one. Sometimes you can actually hit stuff. You want to take out the priests whenever possible, because they obviously do lots of healing, and that can be a bit of a pain in the arse. So we can probably take out this one now with a second archer. But again, I am probably leaving myself open to attacks. But this is just to show you how the actual combat in the game works. I wouldn't normally play this badly. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm completely professional when it comes to these games, because professionalism isn't in my wheelhouse, but I do quite like strategy RPGs. I'm a huge fan of Fire Emblem. I love Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, even though I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy fan. And yeah, I don't know, these games just kind of really click for me. So let's bring Clint in here. And now I'm going to show you some of the cool special effects magic that you can do. So this guy here, you pick him up around chapter 5, and he's got some insanely powerful magic. And this is one of my favourites, Phase Shift, which just basically, well, watch it, it's mental. Everything goes boing boing, and then you can do damage to anything that's in the vicinity. And again, as you saw there, some characters take far more damage than others, so you want to experiment to get the best results. So again, this one doesn't do too much damage, but it's just another cool effect to show off. So you pick this up later in the game. As I said, the further you get in levels, you will pick up more spells. You can't change classes once you've got them, so you need to do a bit of planning beforehand. I'd recommend like GameFAQs to check out some of the strategy guides there, so you got a better idea of who you should be going for. But yeah, it's just a really good game. It is quite easy. I've only found a couple of levels which have got really stupid difficulty spikes. But like I said, there's some great variety in it. One minute you're breaking somebody out of prison, the next minute you're basically, well, you're in a scenario like this, and the maps get ever more expansive. So you really need to think what you're doing. There was one cool one a little earlier where I got about 5 or 6 rounds into the game, and then a second battalion came up and really buggered things up for me. So it likes to keep you on your toes. It's not the most challenging of games, but I've enjoyed the 15 odd hours that I've played with it. And in a way, I've been quite annoyed because I've had this game sitting on my shelves for around 3 years now, I think, and I just haven't bothered with it, which, you know, seems absolutely mental. But I guess that's one of the dangers of when you tend to have a lot of video games like I've got. So I'm really glad that I finally got around to playing it. Hopefully you'll like what you see. It's not stupidly expensive. You can probably pick it up for around the £30 to £50 mark, depending on whether you want the PAL version or the NTSC version, which I've obviously got here. I try and buy all my games NTSC if I can, because I just feel that they're running the way that the developers wanted them to. But if you do like strategy RPGs, this is really, really good fun, and I massively recommend it. So this is Vandal Hearts. This is late to the party. Hopefully, if you are late to the party, you're now going to rectify that and jump on the party bandwagon. And I'll be back for more videos very, very soon. So this is RetroGamerDaz. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And I'll be back on Saturday for Shmup Saturday. See you then, guys. Take care. Bye.